I got my phone fixed finally, so this is going to be better, hopefully. Hi, Dana. I've got a ghost story for you today. Hi, everybody. I'm going to play my clips like I planned on doing yesterday, and I couldn't do them because I didn't have my shit together. But I do today. So I'm going to start out with number one.
She told Maria you were hot.
But she did say that I was her new love, though. She didn't say that, though. You know, I understand. I understand every time nobody send you a picture of me without a shirt on. I'll do it for you.
She told Maria you were hot.
In case you didn't hear me when I tried to tell this yesterday, I took Maria over there because she was whining and crying about wanting to get out of the bottom feeders, wanting to get out of the drama. So I took her over there and I said, he's Cuban like you. He's in Miami like you. And he's hot. Hi, Jimmy Jump. Hi, Eve M. Happy Memorial Day. Johnny, you can drop your link and drop Rolexes, and Dana, drop Dana's, or she can drop her own, however you want to do it. But anyway, I did tell Maria he was hot, but not for me, for her. And I don't want a picture of you without your shirt. I don't want any pictures of you at all. Poolstick. None. Thanks, but no thanks.
Oh, yeah, today is Storytime Tuesday, too. I wonder if it's like
You're gonna have a Tuesday. I know, bro.
Oh, yeah, today is Storytime Tuesday, too.
Oh, and in Peach, and on the channel, and Peach is saying, Titty Time needs rehab. And no, I don't need rehab. I love my snap, and I handle it very well. And they have somebody named Titty Time in his chat that is real witty, wittier than he is, by the way. I'd like to find out who it is. They're pretty witty.
Oh, yeah, what, you're buying views now? I saw it. I looked at it the other day. You're buying views now, lady. Stop
She's
with the
been buying views.
Stop with the bullshit. Oh, yeah, what, you're buying views now? I saw it. I looked at it the other day.
This coming from somebody that's chat. My chat's moving more right now, 14 people in it, than his chat does. Why would I buy views? I don't even need it for money. But the bee and him know everything. Everything. You don't believe it, just ask them.
Sports, very nasty individuals like Johnny Mac. Very nasty individuals. An individual like Johnny Mac is a straight scumbag. Who deserves even sports. Very nasty individuals like Johnny Mac. Butterfly girl. Very nasty individuals. An individual like Johnny Mac is a straight.
Oh, really? Johnny Mac's a nasty individual? When you and the bee tried to call the courthouse and get him jammed up? Butterfly girl, whoever the fuck you are, you must be an idiot if you're one of the bee's hive members. Butterfly girl. The nastiest person you could possibly follow is this Poolstick bandit who bragged about beating a woman nearly to death. In fact, he said he wished he'd had a bat and he could have killed her. Out of his mouth. I'm so glad I'm getting to play these right. Now I got my thing figured out. Okay.
That lady right there would support even an individual who supports a dog abuse. That lady right there supports an individual like Johnny Mac who doesn't care three shits about his family, who gives his wife methadone for him. That lady right there would support even an individual who supports a dog abuse. That lady right there supports an individual.
How do you know? He gives his wife methadone, Mr. Big Mouth. And you're sitting right beside a bee that supports a dog killer that kills dogs with antifreeze. So don't you say a word about anybody. As long as you're hooked up with that bee, you two are the worst. She's a confidential informant. She rolled over on her boyfriend. She likes pimpish guys, so that's probably why she could probably pimp you out, by the way. So don't say a word about Johnny Mac. You don't know a thing you're saying about him is true. I talked to Tabitha on the phone. I'm sure that he doesn't give her methadone. I just want people to hear what this guy says about me. But supposedly he don't go after people unless they drag his family. And I've never dragged his family. Never. Not one time. The only thing I did is said he was ungrateful because he never thanked me for the super chats. Okay, here's where he hollers about me calling him Poolstick. He wants me to call him the Bat.
Oh, wet in her ass, but she doesn't get wet in the front. So what's happening is that let me Madonna mia. Listen, I'm not doing oh my God, Tony. But then, here's the situation. Don't come with Poolstick. Well, wet in her ass, but she doesn't get wet in the front. So what's happening is that let me
He knows about being wet in the ass since he was in the pump protection program in the federal penitentiary. He knows all about that asshole getting wet. My Virginia is fine. This is brought to you by KY. My Virginia is fine and moist. Poolstick. Here it is. You're the one with the wet asshole. And B with your little laughing stupidly in your cartoon. Couple of jokes. And I get to pick the nicknames. Not you, Poolstick. Me. I pick nicknames.
reprehensible crime. Whatever you decide to do in regards to physical situation, I think you got green light. Not a Poolstick. Call me a back. Call me back, Mr. Back. That's what you got to do. I'm that serious. I'm that serious because here you are. That reprehensible crime. Whatever you decide to do in regards to physical situation, I think you got green light. Not a Poolstick. Call me a back. Call me back, Mr. Back. That's what you got to do.
Oh, you've got the right to beat a woman nearly to death to keep her from testifying against you? That's your right? And I'm not calling you Bat. I'm calling you Poolstick because I thought of it. And I'm calling another lady six-figure gap tooth. And I call the B the B. And I call Amber Scamber. I make the nicknames, not you. I name the bottom feeders, and I'm naming mob tube, mob feeders, or mob wives because you all act like a bunch of goddamn women. Crybaby, cop calling, snitching women. All of you, just like the bottom feeders. You're all snitches and you're all cop callers.
I'm that serious because here you are calling me Mr. Poolstick, but you were swinging on my balls, man, hardcore, sending me money and everything.
What
Right?
was that?
Yeah, straight up, bro. The meth head Tarzan from Texas. I'm that serious.
I was never swinging off your balls. Never. And yes, you're right. I was sending you money, but only because FBS thought you hung the fucking moon for some unknown reason. And then when I found out how ungrateful you were, didn't even put a heart on them, didn't even say thank you. I quit sending you money. And I got in FBS's ear and I told him, as long as you're with that fool, I'm done. And I meant it. And I hung by it. And then when you found out I was saying you were ungrateful, because Chicago, and the live is still up here, Chicago was on my panel and so was Johnny Mac. And you come over there just raising hell about that. You were so lit up because you are ungrateful. So I posted the truth like I always do. You never put a heart on any of my cash apps, and then you made a big production how you were going to send it all to an animal shelter, something else you never did. Well, now maybe you can give it to Save the Bees or something like that, since you're so in love with a Sesame Street freak. I think that might be the last clip. And since my phone was messed up, I didn't get to play them yesterday, so I want to play them. And yeah, that was the last clip of him running his mouth, even though he never drags women. Never drags any women unless they do something to his family. I don't even know what his stupid family's name is, unless you call a girlfriend family. I don't know what his son's name is. I don't know nothing. And Minnie. Hey, like my new purse. Minnie, Deborah Silver, I'm never going to let you live this down. Never, never, never. Because when I mistakenly thought Dixie was a dog killer, I offered to send all her gifts back. All of them. Because that's the way I am. I don't think I deserve to keep the stuff she sent me. But not you, Minnie. Not you. You'd rather make up lies and tell people your version of the story. Well, I've got Sophie looking for that video where I held my Louis Vuitton up and you're in the chat going, oh, I want that Louis Vuitton so bad. I've never had one, blah, 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 blah. So get ready. Get ready, Deborah Silver. There's more to come because I found out who your girlfriend is, too. Oh, yeah. I know everything about you. And now, I got to shake my pills for my hillbillies. Hillbilly, redneck, Trump, got a new red hat to match my red dress. And it says, gun owners for Trump. Oh, yeah, we're going to make this political. If any of you people got triggers, you need to get on out of here because I don't care about your triggered emotions. And now, if anybody wants to come up here, I'll drop a link. But first, I want to tell Dana a ghost story. And this really happened. I think my daughter was around 12. And I had a good friend that lived in Missouri. Real good friend. Her and her husband. They were bikers. So I worked at the salt mine till 12 midnight. So I told my daughter, be ready when I get home because we're heading to Missouri. It was Easter. It was Easter vacation. We were going to go up there and see Lori and Gary. So I didn't know exactly where they lived, and it was before GPSs and before cell phones or any of that stuff. But Lori had told me that if I couldn't find their house, there was a big Petro truck stop. To go to the truck stop, use a phone there, and her and Gary would come and get me. So this is midnight now, folks. And I don't know how much driving you've ever done in Arkansas and stuff, but it is spooky driving at night. You don't want to do no stopping at a roadside rest or anything. So we drove, and I couldn't find them, and I got lost, no way to call them, couldn't find the petrol, couldn't find anything. So we found this little old gas station, just like the Chainsaw Massacre gas station. Little old creepy gas station. Old pumps, older than me, older gas pumps. Me and Brianna go in there, and I'm asking the guy directions because in Missouri, the roads are letters of the alphabet. They're not numbers. They're like M or MF or something like that. They're hard to follow. So he was trying to give me directions. I said, well, then just, if you can't tell me that, tell me where the Petro truck stop is. Tell me how to get back on the interstate. So he was talking to me, and Brianna was wandering around the garage. And she comes up with these shrunken heads. I'm thinking they're plastic or something, but they weren't. They were real bone, and they looked like a little shrunken head with real hair on them. I said, Brianna, put that shit down, hang it back up wherever you got it from. You're not getting that. Well, she started throwing a fit. I said, you're not getting a shrunken head. Just put it back. So she put it back. I looked at it a little bit more, and it said genuine shrunken heads right on the label. So we leave, and I finally found the truck stop, got in there, called Gary and Lori. I said, come and get us. So they came and got us, and I told them about that little gas station that had the shrunken heads. I said, I'd go back and get one now because I'm not scared. We could never find that gas station again. Never. So I thought, well, maybe I imagined it. Maybe there really wasn't any Shrunken Heads or gas station, but Brianna verified it. She said, oh, yeah, Mom, there was a gas station like that, and it did have Shrunken Heads hanging. They were like for keychains, but they were real Shrunken Head, real bones, real Shrunken Heads. That was spooky, and I've never forgot it. And every time I go to Missouri, because I've still got friends up there, I think of that gas station and try to remember exactly where it was, where we found it. And then when we stopped at a roadside rest after dark, I always took my gun with me everywhere I went, and I'd have it right where I could get my hands on it. And we went to this roadside rest, and there'd been a lot of murders on roadside rest and robberies. So I had that gun, and I would stand outside while my daughter was in there with that gun, waiting for somebody to look funny and walk up on there. Those remind me of the death whistle I just got right of. Anyway, though, I wish I would give anything. Hi, Sophie. How you doing? I just told Dana my spooky story of the Shrunken Heads, which I'm sure were real. And then I think you all heard about the time I got tied in the woods. It hadn't been that long ago. Maybe 2 years ago, tops. I got tied in the woods overnight, duct taped to a tree for running my mouth too much. That was scary too. And that was real. There wasn't nothing ghosty about that. That was a real person that did it to me. Guess what? I learned how to keep my mouth shut about certain things. It was a good training tool. Oh, you're going to be in Florida? You ought to hook up with Dana and do some ghost stuff, Sophie. It's too early to do the spell check. I read all my clips. If somebody wants to get up here, they can hit that link. I'm hot. I got rode hard and put up wet last night, and I've been up since 10 o'clock trying to get this stupid phone to work right. I finally figured it out. It's working like I remember now. It's too early to spell check. Did everybody see my intro? Hi, Mona. How you doing, girl? I've already played the clips. I already told my ghost story. I already showed my beautiful new purse. I'm sure Minnie's going to want this. Aren't you, Minnie? Aren't you Deborah Silk? You and your girlfriend. You want me to give out your girlfriend's name? She's sort of innocent, and I don't really like giving out innocent people's information. But if I'm forced to it, I will do it. Because you're not a friend to anybody. We both know that, don't we? I guess I could tell you about Brenda, my friend that passed away. In fact, I have a thing of her. Hey, Mona, face red heart shape. What's that supposed to mean? Face red heart shape. I don't get it. Face red heart shape. Anyway, Brenda, the girl that was in the Rest in Peace video that I put up, she had never seen The Sopranos, never. And my daughter bought me the most beautiful birthday present or Christmas, whatever it was, gift that I've ever got in my life. And it was a whole series of The Sopranos and all the soundtracks. Probably my favorite series on TV, but I liked Ozarks too, and that was on Netflix. So anyway, I would take that over to Brenda's house. And if I could ever get a signal over to Clear Lakes, and if I can't get a signal, I'm just going to video it because I need to do some interviews with those people. They make the whites look educated, the people that I hang with. And so I would go over to Brenda's house. We would put the Sopranos on. She'd lay on Love Say. I'd lay on the couch in the living room, and we'd watch it till we start getting sleepy. And then we'd take our pills and go to sleep. We always wrote down which one we were on, and we watched The Sopranos endlessly. Well, I trusted Brenda. I trust Brenda like I do Nancy. And if anybody wants to see Nancy, she came on my Instagram Live yesterday, even though she didn't want to. She had her hair cut off. I know Sophie was in there and seen her. I don't know who else came in there, but she is under Terry Wakely and she's on my Instagram Live with me. I promised her I wouldn't post it on here because she didn't want to be on here with no makeup. So anyway, Brenda and me were about like Nancy and me. We did everything together. So I go over there one day, and my other friend, Kathy, that's passed away, we go to Brenda's house, and she's got 2 guys in there with her. Well, I thought she knew them. I thought she'd date them. I thought they were big friends. She said, you want to go ride and get some pot? And I said, yeah, I'll go. So me and Kathy jump in the car. The guy driving was called David something. Brenda was up there with him, and me and Kathy were in the back with this other dude, big guy, like a lumberjack. I can't even think of his name. And so we're driving out behind the school. We keep driving and driving and driving around Alba out in the country. Weeds taller than the cars. And I'm getting nervous. I'm thinking, man, I hope this turns out good. So they said, when we get out there to this old school bus is where the dude lived, in a school bus. He said, you ladies want to see some fighting chickens? Some high-speed chicken feed? Well, I knew what high-speed chicken feed meant, but I didn't know about the fighting chickens. So we walked out through this grass that was taller than our heads, little tiny trail. That David dude was in the front, then Brenda, then me, then Kathy, and then the guy in the back. Thinking they called him McDonald, Mackey or something like that. So D-Mac or J-Mac or something like that. So we get out there to this barn, and sure enough, there was fighting chickens in there, tied up by their legs. And I thought, oh, wow, we're going to get killed. I know the 3 of us are going to get killed. But I thought, Brenda knows the guy, so it's got to be safe. So we went out there, got the high-speed chicken feed, came back. He said, do you want to go to Lake Alba? They call it L.A., but it's really trashy. But it's a little city lake, and it's called Lake Shore Alba. So we drive out there. There was RVs everywhere, and they were hooked up to car batteries. They didn't even have electric. They had these things hooked up to car batteries. Everybody had pit bulls or some kind of big dog come running out. And I said, I'm not getting out of this car. You guys are on your own. So the guy that was driving this, David dude, went to the door and did whatever he did and got back in the car. I'm a nervous wreck by this time. I want to go home. I don't know who these guys are. Mackie D was that guy's name, the big guy. So we get back to Brenda's house. He drops the Mackie D guy off. We get back to Brenda's house, and that David guy started putting the moves on me. David Burrows or Burns or something was his name. And I said, yeah, I'll be back next week or something. And I had a blue Dodge pickup. I just said anything to him to get rid of him. He left. And I said, Brenda, didn't that scare you? She said, yeah, kind of. And I said, didn't you know them? She said, no, I just met them the night right before you got over here. I said, Brenda, you had us right off with these dudes that you didn't even know them? She said, well, they knew where the high-speed chicken feed was, so we went with them. So Brenda would do shit like that. We'd go to people's houses, meth houses. There was a guy hanging down out of a tree with his legs, with a pen light in his mouth, swinging back and forth. Looked like the pictures of Jesus, long stringy hair hanging down. You had to open a gate or wait for somebody to open gate. It was about a mile to get to the house. When you went with Brenda, you never knew what was going to happen. So we were rocking on over to this guy named Thugger's house to pick up some pot. I don't know a thing about pot. I just knew we were going over there to get a pound of it, bring it back, and Brenda was going to fool with it. So we had the scales with us, and we had some methamphetamine. It seemed like we saw 100 cops on the way over there to Thugger's house. I almost stopped and threw that shit out 100 times because I just knew. Brenda said, we'll go to jail for transport, and you better get that off that scale and everything. I said, well, you put it in here. So anyway, we get to Thugger's. His wife is disabled in a hospital bed. She pulled this big garbage bag of pot out from under that hospital bed. She had her own scales sitting there on that little table that them hospital beds had. She weighed out a pound. We put it back in the car. We had to drive all the way back with that stuff. scared to death. But after we got back over there, then Brenda handled it. I didn't have to fool with it anymore. The things I did with Brenda were unbelievable. We walked all over Clear Lakes, and there were pigs bigger than automobiles, wild pigs that killed dogs and everything. We would wander. I've got to do a video of Clear Lakes, because when Nancy jumped bond one time, I took her to Wood County to hide her out. I hid her out in Clear Lakes. In fact, she stayed with Brenda for a while. That's how good a friend I was to her. I said, Nancy, whatever you do, don't tell any of them Grand Saline people where you're at. Keep your mouth shut. Hang over here in Wood County and keep your mouth shut. Well, that's impossible for Nancy. She told 2 or 3 guys. The next thing I know, they're all coming over there. I said, don't answer the door. If the cops come to the door, don't answer it unless they got a warrant. They can't come in. So anyway, they caught her. She was there about a year, and they caught her. And that's when she went to jail and did all the time without any paper. Brenda and me did everything together. I never went to jail with her. Thanks for dropping your things. Hi, moderator, 148. And Brenda had this dog named Dog. And he was kind of like a miniature pit bull. He was real short. He had real short legs. He was brindle colored. And I would be driving around Clear Lakes, and I still get lost to this day over there. I have to go over there and do a video of that. Because I've got a brother-in-law that's still over there. I got another friend named Connie. A bunch of them have died, but I've got actual people that are still alive. And I would see Dog, and I'd say, where's Brenda? And that dog would get in front of me and run to Brenda's house, and I'd find her. Brenda and me were walking around one night. We saw Ray, the guy that's taking chemo right now. He's been on several of my videos. Crazy Ray. We saw him, my brother-in-law, not going to say no other names, and a kid out in the water. Me and Brenda walked down there. They had fire to see if they were burning copper, what they were doing. We walked down there to them, and that kid was out in the water, and every time he'd try to swim to shore, they would throw rocks and shit at him. I said, what are you trying to do, drown that kid? And they said, the best thing you and Brenda can do is get the fuck out of here and mind your own business. You shouldn't have been stealing stuff. And the kid's name was Hector Herrera. I thought, oh my God, they're going to kill him. I know they are. If I never see him again, I'll know what happened to him. What am I going to do? Well, he lived, and he's out in West Texas now. But people disappear over there. You might see somebody one day, like this guy named Eddie Beebe. You might see him riding his bike around with air conditioner on the back of it, and you might never see him again. And you say, whatever happened to Eddie Beebe? And they go, nobody knows. But I knew something happened to him. They never were seen again. So we're over there messing around. I love being around those outlaw people. I love it. I thrive on being around those people. Well, when Ray went to prison, which he's been to prison a bunch of times, he got out one time. He was actually trying to stay clean, and he had this RV. And so Connie and me had well, I'll just have to show you how Clear Lakes looks, but it's ridiculous. You got to see it to believe it. So Brenda and I walked around the corner, and Brenda said Connie's cousin died in this building, in this chair. And his name was Ronnie, and he was a little bit simple-minded, but we all talked to him. We were nice to him. Was Connie's cousin. So we walked into that building, and that chair was sitting there with all the stains from the bodily fluids and stuff were on it. We were just looking around, taking pictures. I've got them somewhere. I said, man, what did he die of? And Brenda said, I don't know. We just found him here. They didn't care. So I'm telling Ray this story months later. I said, God, you won't believe what me and Brenda found. We found a chair that dude died in, and then somebody burned the shack down. And Ray said, oh, really? And I said, yeah. He said, well, that's not where he died. That's where they found him, but that's not where he died. I said, tell me the story. He wouldn't tell me nothing else. That's all he's ever told me to this day. And he's got stage 4 lung cancer. And I beg him. I said, please tell me the story, what you know. He won't tell me anything. Anything. There were meth labs over there. Everybody knew how to cook meth. There's no way the cops can put a stop to meth. They're cooking it, shake and bake. Everybody knows how to cook it. Everybody. Terry Time, you should write memoirs. I know, and I'm trying to think of some things you guys haven't heard because I haven't went over number 5, the 1%er I was married to that much, but one night I went looking for him. And I knew he was at his ex-wife's house. I had a feeling he was. So when I got off work, I drove over to Quitman and couldn't see his Harley anywhere. I thought, well, maybe he's not here, but I gotta know he is. Well, there was this plastic swimming pool, and he had put the plastic swimming pool up over the Harley, but I still saw it. So I bam, bam, bam on the door. I said, if you're in there, you better come the fuck out right now. Nobody come to the door. So I said, either come out or I'm going to put a bullet straight through that Harley Davidson right now. Well, then he opened the door up. He was there, got the gun away from me, said, you need to get the fuck home. Forget about this. I got a right to see my ex-wife, my son, blah, 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 whatever excuses he was making up. So I got out of Quitman, left there. And I was fighting with him one time at his house. And by the way, his brother lives in Clear Lakes. We're still friends. Well, I'm still friends with him too. We talk. But we were fighting about something. I don't even remember what. And he put his hands behind his back and he headbutted me and he damn near knocked me out. And Ben, his brother, was standing there. Ben got hit by a car when he was riding a Harley, got killed. But Ben, and he put a big old bruise on my head. He knocked me out. When I come to, he said, I never laid a hand on you. Go ahead. Tell somebody I laid a hand on you. Did I lay a hand on her, Ben? Ben said, nope, never laid a hand on her. And he did. He had his hands behind his back when he did it. Well, if he wasn't doing anything wrong, he wouldn't have hit his butt. I know, Sophie. I know how to handle these stupid men. The murdering guy, Joseph, that's in jail for murder right now, left my house one day. He was this true blue in love, blah, blah, blah. He left my house one day to go get some snap from these lesbians that I knew. I told him about it. He didn't even know about them. I told him where they lived. So he's gone and gone and gone. I knew he wasn't messing with lesbians. They didn't like men. I wonder where he's at. So Susie, one of the lesbians who's passed now, called me and she said, Terry, does your man have a, she described the Harley to me. I said, yes. She said, well, he's next door at so-and-so's house. He's been there ever since he was here. So I friended her on Facebook. I friended that girl. She had no idea that we were hooked up. I friended her and I found out everything about him from her own mouth. And then they used to call me Screenshot on Facebook because I did stuff like that. I caught guys in their own trap. I'd make friends with their girlfriends. I'd see who all their friends were, who all the women were. I'd go ahead and friend them all, get them to spill their guts to me. So I had everything in the world on them I needed. And I'd let the guy rock on for a while, not thinking I knew anything, thinking I was a fool. And then I'd say, guess what? Guess what, Joseph? You know that girl's house you were at, Tanya? He said, what about it? I said, my lesbians were right there telling me how long you were there, sent me pictures of your stupid ass Harley sitting there. Oh, we're just friends. I said, okay, that's good because I got a lot of just friends too. So I know exactly how to find people when they're lying. Been doing it my whole life. Anyway, I don't really have much else to say. I told the ghost story. One year we scared my daughter and her friend Heather. There's a place here called Clark's Ferry, and I can't get down there to show you because they closed it off. But there was a story. This is another haunted story, Dana. There's a story. When I moved to Grand Saline, that there was a school bus trying to cross this Clark's Ferry, and it went in the water, and all the kids drowned, and you could hear them screaming at night. Well, it was a lie because there's not enough water in that thing to drown anybody, but that's the story. So we would go down there and mess around because it was kind of spooky. So I watched Unsolved Mysteries all the time. And there was one about the boys on the railroad tracks, and they never caught the guy. And then I watched That Town That Dreaded Sundown, and they never caught that guy. I said, God damn, Brenda, that guy from Town That Dreaded Sundown, it's not that far from here. He could be lurking around here somewhere. So my boyfriend then was a weed head, Lynn. And him and Sharon's boyfriend, Jimmy, went down to Clark's Ferry and they made a pentagram out of these cow bones and a cow head. And the woman that I worked in the grooming shop with, Jeannie, we had this all planned to scare those kids. It was Halloween. So we drive down to Clark's Ferry, and if I could take you down there, I would, but I can't because it's blocked off. And it was a narrow dirt road, and it was dead end. It dead ended right there at Clark's Ferry. So we had the two girls in the back. It was me and Jeannie and Sharon in the front. And Lynn, the weed head, the White Album guy, he had a stocking thing pulled over his head and a chainsaw. So while we were down there looking around, I said, oh, God, look at all these bones, girls. And they got real scared. I said, oh, my God, they've been having some kind of ritual down here. Look at this stuff. Jeannie and me were picking it up, and the cow head, and picking it up, and it scared the girls to death. They ran back in the car, giving Jimmy and Lynn enough time to block the road so we couldn't get out. So we took as much time as we could. The girls wouldn't get out of the car. So we're driving back up out of that road, and Lynn and Jimmy had pulled big limbs across the road. We couldn't get out. So we're going to have to go pull them limbs out or we're not going to get out of here. So Jeannie and me get out to move the limbs. In the meantime, Lynn comes off that bank with that chainsaw and that thing on his head and scared those girls. Well, almost scared us to death. And we knew what was going to happen. Scared them almost to death. So then we got out of there, and Brianna said, I can't believe you did that. You scared me so bad, blah, blah, blah. I said, that's what Halloween's all about. Quit crying. That's what kids would love to have me for a mother, doing all the stuff I do, spooky stuff for you. So we had another setup over at the rodeo grounds. There's a big bridge that you have to go up. I can take you over that. It's a new bridge, but I can show you the rodeo grounds. So we went over there, and Sharon's husband, Jimmy, started setting off firecrackers. As soon as we got out to walk around, he started letting these firecrackers off everywhere. Well, by then, those girls were scared to death. They didn't want to do no more Halloweening with us. We didn't even trick or treat or nothing. We had them scared so bad, we had to take them home. And it was so scary, it almost scared us, and we knew what was coming. I wish I could take you down to Clark's Ferry, but I can't. It's blocked off. And a chainsaw, and he had the chainsaw running, and he came right up to the window like he was trying to crash the car and get in there and get those kids. Then there was a guy that got murdered called Joe Smith, and I've driven by his house on one of my road trips. And he didn't live very far from when my third husband, Brianna's dad, came to Texas. We bought this house. I've showed it. And right up the road from us was this Joe Smith guy that used to get these young boys out of rehab, come and work for him. Well, everybody thought he was molesting the kids or something. So anyway, he got shot in his sleep. They've never arrested anybody for it. Never. So Kathy and Bill just lived around the corner from the Smith dude. And I let my car, and I had 89 Dodge Daytona. I let my car get down where that low fuel light was on because I wanted to scare them kids real bad. Brianna and can't think Holly was the other kid. Sammy Don was in on it. He was sitting in the back seat. Well, Kathy's husband, Bill, got in the hatchback of that car underneath my saddles and stuff where just his arm could reach out between the back seats. This wasn't Halloween or nothing. This was just to scare her. And so he had drawn a pentagram in the sand around the house, put candles in it and stuff. But the girls didn't see it when we left because it was dark. So he gets in my hatchback, gets back in there under them saddles. We had another kid named David out by Joe Smith's house with blood on his face and dripping down his neck and everything. And we're driving, and I keep lurching the car like it's running out of gas. I said, oh my God, Brenda, I hope we don't run out of gas. She said, why did you put gas in it? She started crying and shit. And I said, well, I hope we make it. And Kathy could barely keep from laughing because we knew what was going to happen. So we get up there by Joe Smith's house, and I make it act like it ran out of gas. And then that kid, David, come up to the window with all that ketchup shit all over his face. I'm not really dead. Joe Smith didn't kill me, screaming. And them kids are screaming in the back. And about then, Bill reaches out between them seats and grabs a hold of my daughter's arm and scared the bejesus out of her. Scared her half to death. So we were laughing, and I said, how'd that work out? So we went back to Kathy's, And then they acted like they just found that pentagram, but actually Bill had made the pentagram before we left. So they were all scared about that. And then she never liked to take off school. My daughter hated to miss school. Well, I was going to the truck stop. I said, Brianna, you have to take off school because I'm not going to be home in time to pick you up. So you're going to have to go with me. I'll write you an excuse. You're going with me. So I took her to the truck stop with me. Sharon was working there. Charlie was working there. Roxanne was working there. Ronnie, all my friends were working at this truck stop. So I took her there. She was kind of pouting. So Sharon and I talked to this security guard, a black security guard. We asked him if he'd play a joke on Brianna because he looked like he was dressed like a cop. You couldn't tell. He looked like a cop. I said, go over there and act like you're going to arrest Brianna for missing school. Act like a truant officer or something. So Sharon was working in the kitchen. She talked to him. I forget what that guy's name was. But anyway, I went back over and sat with Brandon, and he walks up to the table. He said, young lady, aren't you supposed to be in school today? She just started crying. Well, my mom made me miss. I said, don't blame it on me. And he said, well, you're both going to jail. Both of you stand up and get your hands behind your back. So she's crying and crying. I put my hands behind my back. I'm still thinking it's a big joke. Well, he went far with it. He took us outside and he said, you're going to Tarrant County Jail, both of you. Everybody in the truck stop was looking at us. They thought it was real. He put us up against the trunk. And then I said, okay, that's enough. The jokes went far enough. He said, what joke, lady? You're both going to jail for this. Brianna was screaming by this time. Then finally he told her it was a joke. That girl would never take off school again and go anywhere with me, ever. That broke her from trusting me to ever do anything. But I love playing jokes on kids. Yes, it scared those girls, Heather and Brianna. We scared them and scared them. I can't even think of all the things I've done to her. I threw a rubber ball in her room one night. I got home from work. I didn't get home from work till midnight. I worked 12 hours a day. So I came in the back. This was the other house, not this one. She never lived in this one with me. And her bedroom window was cracked, and I threw a rubber ball in there. It was bouncing all over the walls, and I started screaming. It scared her. She thought something was in there after. Then the weed head guy would put these little snap strings on a cupboard. When you open them up, they go boom, and they'd make a snap sound. She thought everything was a booby trap. And now when I talk to her about it, she thinks it's funny. But the one regret I have is those shrunken heads. Ooh, I wish I'd have got one. Can you imagine how much money a genuine shrunken head would be worth? And I know they were real because I picked them up and looked at them, and it was real bone, and it was real hair. Might have been a monkey skull or something, I don't know, but it was real. Poor little girl, she must have been terrified. She was terrified, but people scared me when I was growing up too. My dad used to do stuff to me and my brother. My brother did stuff to me all the time. He'd throw rocks at me from out of the cemetery. We were camping out. He'd come pull the tent down on us. So it's inherited, I guess. It's in my genes. That was my convict. So I'm going to get off of here. He's going to call me back on my landline. I don't know if you could hear his sweet accent or not. So I think it was like the ones for rituals. They were on a little cardboard thing and they were selling them as keychains or something. I don't know exactly where they came from. But Trump, gun owners, I'll have some more story times for you. Love y'all. Have a good Memorial Day. I'm going to get off here so I can talk to Kevy when he calls me back. Ciao.